Hi, thanks for watching this Sunburnt Country Music interview with Hazel from Hazel and the Thief. She's an artist from Victoria, and I'm very much looking forward to talking to her. And I hope you look forward to listening to her and to me. Thanks for watching. And if you like the Sunburnt Country Music interviews or you just want to see more, consider hitting the subscribe button. Thank you. Hazel is an alt country and folk artist from Victoria who performs with her band, known as The Thief, and who has just released her debut album, Wildflowers in Concrete. She's performed on several festival stages, attended the Academy of Country Music, and also runs a venue herself. So there is a lot to talk to her about, and I have many questions. Hello, Hazel.
Hello, how are you, Sophie?
I'm very well, thank you, and it's great to meet you. And I'm so enjoying this album. I've listened to it several times. I will keep listening to it. But I have questions about it in the meantime. I am going to start with the thief part of this. Who and what are the thief?
Well, I guess back in 2020, I did originally start Hazel and the Thief as a band. I had these great members. I did all the writing, but I pulled them along, and they wrote the musical parts. But then lockdowns hit, COVID hit, and the whole music industry just completely changed, and I had to put that on pause. And I just started writing and doing a lot of live streams and solo stuff. And when we came out of lockdowns, I wanted to recreate this band again, and I got new members. But I realized that to tour with a band, to encourage everyone to contribute financially, even though they're not writing the songs, it was just such a complicated thing. So I kept the name, but I sort of put it as Hazel and the Thief as being me, and the
Mhm.
thief being the band members or the artists that join me. So whether that's on live recordings or live shows, and it does help when you're going interstate, you can just bring different artists in. So they're my thieves.
I think it's good to have a collective.
Yeah, look, it's unique. And at first, I was just had so much anxiety about the name, but the more I think about it and the more I put it out there, it's really who I am. Like, I'm quite theatrical and a little bit quirky, and I like to recreate and be innovative with so many different projects. So people will click that button, go, "Who is this band or solo artist?" And I don't think anyone really cares. It's just Hazel and the Thief. So yeah.
It is a very distinctive name. So you've just mentioned that you're theatrical. Do you have a background in theatre or musical theatre, something like that?
So that's I sort of began with poetry and then picking up the guitar and singing a lot of Casey Chambers covers. And then I went to musical theatre and did a lot of acting. I actually got top of the state in year 12 for my drama performance that I wrote. And so I did a bit of acting, and then I just completely stopped that at the age of 19, and I've never gone back to musical theatre or any sort of drama or acting. It's just been purely songwriting and playing the guitar and performing. So I do have a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also thinking about, and congratulations on topping the state, but also the fact that you had to write it and act it. So obviously there's two elements there in which you had to excel. So had you been writing drama before you were doing it for school, or was that just something where you focused on that project?
At the end of the day, I think I'm just a very visual person. So through poetry, I'm writing narratives and stories that rhyme. And then I was sort of writing my own drama pieces, or like as if I was putting my own theatre show together. So I did a lot of writing with that as well. So I think writing and words for me is my strongest point, the thing I love to do the most, to tell a story. Uh,
Hmm.
and then just bring those little quirky elements like music, or whether it's dance or whatever I decide to do in my live shows,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make it interesting.
So when did you write your first song?
I would have been 12 years old.
Mhm.
So that would have been back in around 1997. I don't want to tell you my age, but it was when CD players were starting to come out, and you could push the record button on the tape player, and that sort of thing. So I guess, yeah, it was 12 years old. I wrote a song called Shed a Tear. It was very sad. Um, and I did perform that at primary school in grade 6. Yeah, so that's where it began.
Yeah, right. So after you left drama behind, and you turned to songwriting, I would imagine, in the wake of that. So Did you first start writing as in like you were playing guitar and you were singing, you were thinking, yes, I can put all this together, or was it you actually had the songs and then you developed the skills to play them, if that makes sense?
I always did a lot of singing, a cappella singing. My dad's a musician, and he's actually a audio engineer as well. And he's done a lot of live sound for all types of music over the years. He comes from London, so I grew up with a studio at home and watching dad mix and record all these musicians, and also he had all these instruments. And I think I was 14, he gave me a guitar and he started teaching me how to play. So I didn't really pick up the guitar till I was 14, 15 years old. And I think the first song I learned was um, A and D, and I was singing oh, daylight come and you want to go home. And that's sort of where it all began. And then it went straight to Casey Chambers. I learned nearly every song on her first album and started performing them at high school. Yeah, so it just went from there. Just I'm a strummer mainly, but very good at my rhythm and writing songs with it. So that's the main thing.
There is nothing wrong with strumming. I did read Ani DeFranco's memoir where she talked about, like, she sort of mentioned strumming was sort of like somehow beneath her, and I just saw, I think, words to that effect because I strum as well. I just thought, oh, come on, not everyone wants to finger pick, not everyone wants to explore the full range of the fretboard. Sometimes it is just about being able to accompany yourself in a song you wrote.
Yep, yep, definitely. And it's nice. I mean, like just having that light and shade can really do a lot with strumming. Like you don't
Mm.
have to, and too much can take away from the lyrics as well. So that's my excuse.
Well, and it can become a performance in and of itself. So when your father was there at home with equipment there, I would imagine, given your background and your interests, you were starting to tune your ear to what was going on.
Yeah, I don't know where I just had a natural ability to sing. I was just extremely shy. I did suffer a lot of severe anxiety till I was about 15, 16, and I started getting pushed into these performances, which again, I was like, physical anxiety was absolutely terrible, took over my body, but I just kept pushing myself. Um, but yeah, look, dad and my mum used to throw a few parties or go to parties where there'd be like these bluegrass jams, and all us kids would be thrown into one room where there'd be a mattress on the floor and the TV and movies. But yeah, I think it was just constantly listening to music and being around music. I just naturally picked it up.
Hmm. So just on the subject of the anxiety, because obviously as a performer, this is something that can prevent you from doing what you actually want to do. And you just mentioned there that you pushed yourself to keep going. And I do think there is some power in the doing of things, but it also takes some constant application. So is it still something that you almost occasionally feel yourself being pulled back towards it when you're going to perform live, or is it in the past?
I definitely still get anxiety, but I just don't show it anymore.
Mhm.
I feel more anxious when it's just a really small audience and it's just me on the guitar. Um, but when it comes to performing with the band, something clicks. It's like I go into character,
Yeah.
and I wear an outfit and I just do my thing, and I forget I forget Heidi Luckhurst, the real name, and just be Hazel.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'd still, obviously, I think a lot of musicians never get over that anxiety. It's just about learning how to cope with it and hide it from the
Hmm.
public.
Yeah. And yeah, and I applaud anyone who there was a book years ago called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, but that's really what you're doing. You're feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah, I taught music for a really, really long time to children, and I used to say, if you're scared of spiders, when you first see them, you don't want to touch them. But if you were to pick one up and it didn't bite you, after a while you realize that that spider is not a dangerous spider, and you just pick it up again and again, and that fear goes away.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just yeah, just facing the fear constantly and realizing, hey, it's not as bad as you think. Nothing
Yeah.
went wrong. It's all good.
Yeah. So all of this, and I always love finding out about musicians' backgrounds, especially when I interview them for the first time. But I actually haven't even got to the second of the questions I've written, but it actually, all of what you've just told me informs this because what I'd written was, although you've just released your debut album, it is very much the work of a developed artist. And so what you've just told me about your whole background explains to me what I was hearing on the album, which is actually this really rich work that it's a work of connection. There's a lot of earthiness to it. You're a really strong singer and very much holding your own against quite a lot of instruments in the song, some of the songs in particular. And so now I understand. It's like, yeah, you have that background where you've performed, you've faced some challenges performing, you really understand music. And so I suppose now what I'd ask you is what you grew up listening to apart from Casey Chambers that might have helped inform you either as a songwriter or a singer, both, and as a performer.
Look, I spend a lot of time at my grandparents' house. I have an older brother who's autistic, and so mum was quite busy with him and would leave my younger brother and I with my grandparents. And my nana listened to a lot of Celtic music, and my papa was a big lover of Slim Dusty. So I guess that's the Celtic country lyric storytelling stuff. But my dad, he produced and worked with a lot of improv jazz, so and a lot of blues and soul, so a completely different angle. So I think the vocals for me, the techniques sort of are soulful and jazzy, but if you were to hear me singing a cover song when I used to do cover shows, I would sound completely different to what I sound when I sing my own stuff, because I'm truly being myself and bringing in my songwriting, which obviously with the lyrics that I write, I don't want to put too much embellishment into it, because I want people to hear the story. So the artists, I guess, I grew up listening to was Celine Dion, Shania Twain, Casey Chambers, Alison Krauss in the Union Station. Jewel was another one. I also listened to a lot of heavy rock and punk, like Silverchair. I used to love Limp Bizkit. So many different styles of genre, and it kind of depended on where I was in my life. But the root, the core of genre was definitely country and folk. So I always went back to that genre all the time when I was playing my music and listening. So yeah.
I can certainly hear the Celtic influences in the instruments on this album, and I can hear the Slim Dusty and Joy McKean really, her writing in the storytelling, and also in the way you deliver some of the lines, and then the jazz as well, because you really use your voice in such a great way, in an exploratory way, I think, in some of these songs. So that's all very interesting to hear. So I'm wondering how long the album Wildflowers in Concrete was in the making, as in when did you write the first song for it?
I think the first song I wrote would have been, actually all these songs were written from 2020. So I've been a mum for 21 years, and my early 20s, when I had babies, I put down the guitar for 5 years, which I totally regret, but this is what you do when you're a mum, and got into other art and visual arts and things like that. And it wasn't until my mid 20s when my marriage broke down, and I had to sort of escape the home with my kids and start my life again. And that was when I started to pick up the guitar and play music. And I dabbled with a lot of songs, but I really weren't very confident in, I guess, lyric writing and structure. So back in 2015, I went and studied a Bachelor of Music and Songwriting. And I started to work out how to write a song, not just from a moment in time and inspiration, but actually sit down with a brief and write a song. So during lockdowns of 2020, I had so much time, and that's what I did. I actually sat down and thought, okay, I'm going to write a song today. And pretty much every song on that album was written from, 2020 to now. So 5 years of writing. The first song I wrote would have probably been The Olden Days, which is the first track of the album. All these songs actually came out of me. I think I wrote them all within an hour. So I have about 50 songs. There's 12 of them, and I chose the 12 that I just wrote so quickly, and straight away just thought, yeah, that's a song. I really like this one. So yeah.
So there are some themes that emerge on the album. There's a love of nature. There's figuring out how to be with others, I think, is part of it. There's a strong sense of community, care, and regard for others as well. I'm wondering if those themes were you were aware of them actually as you were writing the songs over that period of time, or was it, or is it actually how you've chosen the songs that you chose out of the 50, these 12 songs with some themes in mind?
I honestly think they really. I didn't put a theme or a brief down. Actually, kind of a bloke thing, which I co-wrote with Alan Caswell. That concept about writing a song about blokey things that was planned and put together. I want to own a farm with you. That was really that I had no idea where that came. I think I had a bottle of wine when I wrote that one, but that just came out of me. I don't even know how that came, but I always wanted to have a farm. So that was just one that, yeah, I felt the moment during lockdown. I just wanted more space, I guess. But deep down, every sort of theme or feeling that I get when I write is always about human connection and
Hmm.
about how important life is. Because with what I've gone through as a human being, as a mother, I've gone through a bit of trauma. There's been a bit of tragedy in my life, and I've seen how short life is, and also to have a brother who's autistic, and seeing him bullied and being taken advantage of, and realizing, hang on, stop, like judgment. I don't believe in judging people for certain things. I think we're all individual, and that message is quite strong in a lot of my songs. Is yeah, that human connection and looking after yourself, not judging other people, and making sure you make the most of life, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really joyous album in many ways, and I'm wondering if you actually felt that as you were recording it. So as it, like, was it embodied joy for you recording?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. This was a dream come true to be able to do this. I've been wanting to do it for so long, and I just never had the money to
Mm.
actually get into a studio with a producer and produce quality music. My dad's an amazing engineer, but I really wanted to work with someone who was sort of like a songwriter producer that knew my style. Sometimes you can go with a producer that works with that, like my dad who works with jazz, and the sound cannot be as what you want. So I also wanted to explore working with somebody else as well. So when I when I had a moment a couple of years ago, I was like, look, I'm nearly, my life is ticking by very quickly. I've got some money saved here. I'm just going to take the plunge and do this. And so I went over last year to meet Matt Fell in Tasmania, and we produced 6 songs. And then when I returned, I applied for a professional development grant, and I received $12,000 to go back and do the other 6 songs. So that's how the album came about. But yeah, it was a dream come true. It was really enjoyable, but also just I shed a few tears because it was just happy tears, just so happy to finally do what I love. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a big financial commitment and also a commitment of time because yes, you have a household to run, you had children you've been raising, you have some other things going on. So yeah, I think yeah, it's just finding that time as much as anything, and also Matt being in Tasmania now,
Yeah.
across
Well,
the water to get to him.
oh, yeah, and I think I spent a few thousand just catching the boat over, and while I was over there, I caught up with my best friend who lives there, and I made it a bit of an experience. So, look, I've done it now, and I'm already planning the next time I get in the studio. So it's addictive.
Now, the title track "Wildflowers in Concrete" is a real anthem, but I'm also guessing it's a bit of an origin story for you, in that you could be said to be a wildflower blooming from the concrete. But I'm interested. I can certainly see the wildflower part, but is concrete? I'm thinking for you might be just sort of like the stuckness of day-to-day life, the things that you have to get through in order to find a way to bloom, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, it's got a lot of meanings. It was tough. It's hard. Life is tough. It is. You do get stuck. That I had this dream to like have a career in music, but I couldn't. You know,
Mm.
I had to make school lunches and get the kids to school and pay the bills, and I was watching all these people just thrive in the industry and going out networking, and I was stuck at home with children. And I'm not going to say that was a bad thing. I feel like it's the best thing I've ever done, because even though I'm at the other end of having children, I feel like the life experience and everything I've learned in the background through work and study, and life experience has made me a better songwriter. So coming out the other end, I feel like I'm ready now. I wouldn't have been ready 10 years ago. I wouldn't have written the songs I do now. I would have been spending a lot more time trying to write a song, whereas now I feel like I can write a song in an hour. Yeah, so that concrete is that heart, that toughness of life, and the wildflower being the beautiful things that can come from a tough situation. So
Mhm. Was it always going to be the title track?
no, it was actually the second last song I wrote out of the 12 that are on the album. So I'd had sort of 10 songs selected, and um, I had a bunch of others I could put in amongst the album, but I sort of decided I wanted to create something new. So Wildflowers and Concrete began with a poem. I actually had this poem, and it went for about 7 minutes as a song. So I had to cut out verses and rewrite and put it together. But Wildflowers and Concrete being the feature song is really where it all began. It was when I, again, walked out of that relationship and had to start my life again. And that's when I picked up the guitar. So for me, that was like the beginning of my music career, and signing up to go to university. And so, yeah.
Yeah, which is in itself a big commitment. Actually, I did clock early that you said it, but study on top of everything else. It's a lot. It's a lot. But again, I can hear it in the recorded music because this is all the work of a very developed artist. I was also interested, you have quite a few lyrics about living on and being connected to the land. And there is even a song called The Magic of the Country. So have you lived your whole life near the land or on the land?
I grew up in a place called Cape Shank, which we were one of the first houses out there. Very beautiful, indigenous, sacred land. It's right on the cliff top on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. And so as kids, we had like acres and acres and acres of beautiful bushland and coastline. We used to actually climb down the cliffs when the tide was out, and go into caves, and just, yeah, grew up with nature. And then obviously becoming a mum, I had to move to suburbia to get my own place. And it wasn't until probably about 14, 13 years ago, I met my now husband, who absolutely loves camping, and he brought me back into nature. And we started off with a swag, and then went to a camper trailer, and then an old caravan, and now we have this beautiful new caravan that we take everywhere. And by far, it is my favorite thing to do, is just to go out and sit around a fire and connect with nature. It really calms my mind, because I am a very busy person, and my mind just sometimes doesn't shut off. So that, yeah, go out into nature. It's a good excuse to just turn off the phone and
Mhm.
connect it again with friends and family. So
Yeah, literally grounding, I think
yeah.
is the work it does. Yeah. You have a song on the album called Hello Next Door, which is about neighbors and about community, and also about not making the connections necessarily that you later wish you could make. And I'm wondering if you have felt a community like that where you live now or in the past.
Yeah, so I am friends with all my neighbours. We had lockdown parties. They've meant a lot to me. But that song's actually got a really sad background to it. So when I was a young mum, a single mum, I was living in a little unit, and next door was an older couple, and they were just so beautiful. At Christmas time, they'd deliver chocolates and always say hello. But I never really got to know them. And one day I was in the kitchen, I was sort of looking out the window. I'm like, I really should get to know them a little bit more. But I never made that effort. And then I moved out. And as I was moving all my stuff out of the house, my neighbour came and said, "Oh, darling, are you moving?" I said, "Yeah, I am, but I'm only moving around the corner." And she said, "Oh, it's going to be sad to see you go." And we had this conversation. I said, "Oh, I wrote this song, Hello Next Door. It's sort of about you." And I was telling her all about it. Anyway, I moved out, and about 10 days later, I was driving past my old unit and I saw my neighbour on the ground. I quickly pulled over, and this is a main road that I lived on. And sadly, she was having a heart attack. Yeah, so she was pulling the bin out and she'd collapsed, and I was first on scene. And being a main road, within 5 minutes, there was 30 people pulling over in cars and trying, and I was there to giving her CPR, and sadly, she passed away.
Oh.
And yeah, so that song for me is like very, I don't know, it's kind of beautiful because I feel like she selected me in that moment to be there. So it was sort of beautiful, traumatic, hard to explain, but yeah, again, it's just that connection of people and how life goes. You just got to be strong and keep going.
Yeah, well, I actually had the thought as you were describing it that I thought she'd chosen you to be there, in the way of things for whatever reason, which you'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because these things do work in mysterious ways. As I mentioned close to the start to this, there is a really robust sound on this album, and I mean that in that there's kind of this meatiness to it. I say this as someone who doesn't eat meat, but there's a meatiness to it, which I really enjoy because it felt like I could really get into it with you and feel like I was inside the experience. I think part of that is created by the instruments that are on some of the tracks. Some of them have quite a lot of instruments on. I'm wondering before you went to Matt Fell, the producer, with the songs, if you envisaged them being a particular way, like did you envisage them having a lot of fiddle on, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fiddle. It's like one of my favorite instruments. And I went into Matt and I said, I really want fiddle in this part. And there were times before I was actually in the studio laying vocals down where I sent off a demo to him, and he started to sort of prepare parts for the song. And I would be in my phone and singing. I sang the cello part in Hello Next Door, and I gave him examples of what I wanted the fiddle to do at the end of the olden days. Like I sort of sung the parts for him.
Mhm.
Not sure how that was portrayed to Luke Moller, the fiddle player, but when it came back to me, I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" um, the only two songs that came out a little bit different for me probably was Hello Next Door and Here for Life, which have got the piano parts, because I've never really done much with piano. And Hello Next Door, I usually perform that with guitar and harmonica, so it was a completely different sound, but I'm really happy with how it's come out.
Yeah, they're both lovely. Now you attended the Academy of Country Music this year, Senior Academy, have to point out, because I know they're delineating senior and junior. So the album would have been well underway by then. And I'm wondering why you decided, therefore, to go to Academy, because some people would think, well, you're well on your way. You've got your album being made. I know Academy offers certain experiences that cannot be replicated anywhere else, but I'm just curious why you decided to go.
Yeah, well, I went along. I felt very like I learned quite a bit about um, songwriting, I guess. I mean, I've done so much songwriting workshops, but this I learned a little bit more about the country music side of the industry, which was really interesting. But a lot of the stuff they taught I'd learned at university or through life experience. But I mainly went because I just needed to connect with people.
Right.
I live in Victoria. There's no country music scene down here. I mean, it's starting to build, but I don't know really anybody else that is really into that country music. So I wanted to connect and build networks and meet other people and just have an experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you stay on for the Tamworth Country Music Festival?
Yeah, I did. That was an interesting 4 weeks. I think I was in Tamworth for the academy, and then the following 2 weeks. I, being a camper and love camping, they did say, do you need any accommodation? And I said, no, I'll just pitch a tent. And two nights in, I don't know if you were at Tamworth Country Music Festival in January, but there was some really wet, windy nights. And
Right.
I think the second night I got flooded in and my tent went like this. But I was offered a house to stay in, which was the mayor of Tamworth,
Oh,
Russell. And
right.
I got to stay with him for the whole 4 weeks, and I had a ball. He took me backstage to all these little chats, and it was so great.
Well, that worked out the way it was meant to, I think. Now, you also run the Shed Theatre at the Pig and Whistle in Main Ridge in Victoria, and that means producing over 100 gigs a year, which is a lot. When did you start becoming involved with that venue?
Yeah, so I've always been really heavily involved down here in the music scene. I used to run a non-for-profit called the Mornington Music Network, and I've also been on the Arts and Culture Advisory Panel as a consultant for contemporary music,
Mm.
and I was asked by a few venues down here to help them write some grants during the 2020 lockdowns, and they were all successful. And I was offered a couple of positions at different venues. I took the Pig and Whistle, and when I arrived, James McPherson, who's the manager or the owner of the business there, he said, "Look, I've got this big old machinery shed. I want to turn this into a theatre." And within 10 days, I was there with my work boots sanding down doors. And about 6 months later, we had a possible campaign. We got another grant, and we were able to put some live equipment in there and put in our first couple of acts. And it just grew from there. And I've been there since 2020. So, yeah, it's a very iconic venue now. We get some really big artists, which is a lot of fun. I get to meet them all, and I get to curate the whole space. And yes, pretty much my little creative project. So I love it. It's a lot of joy.
Well, and because you mentioned the grant writing, that does appear to be a rare and valuable skill, being able to write successful grants.
I think I've got about $600,000 in grants for the music industry now for
Wow, okay.
original Australian music. So I don't know how, but I seem to submit a lot of visual stuff like photos and videos and try and pull the idea together that way. So it seems to work, I guess. And
Yeah, right.
yeah, I've been very lucky with that. Mhm.
Yeah. And congratulations. So just running the venue, I was thinking about your 100 gigs a year, and the rhythms of doing that, I would imagine, are somewhat at odds with writing songs, rehearsing, all those sorts of things. So I'm actually wondering how you organize your time. Do you have a color-coded calendar?
Well, I'm really lucky to, even though I'm full time at the Pig and Whistle, it's very flexible hours. So if I wake up at 5 a.m., I'll jump on the computer and start work, and I could be finished by midday. And then I've got the rest of the day to work on album and rehearsals and so forth. So I work my full time job around my music. And my boss allows me, he said, if you get a gig and you can't turn it down, make sure you take it. So he's the most supportive boss to have. But I'm very lucky that I have all the things I do in regards to graphic design and marketing the shows at the Pig and Whistle just built my skills up for my own music as well. So I can do things really quickly now. Um, but yeah, it's usually an early morning walk at 5:30, maybe an hour on the computer for music, and then off to work. And then I come home, cook some dinner, and then obviously here I am now.
That's right. It is nighttime when we are speaking. Yes.
So yeah, it doesn't stop, but I love it. So
Yeah. And I think all those skills that you develop, as you just said, being able to do graphics, marketing, they are required of modern artists, really.
yeah, yeah. If you can do it all, it does save you a lot of money, but it does also bring a lot of anxiety because you're doing it yourself, and sometimes it would be nice to just give it to a professional who knows what they're doing and just know that it might work better than what we're trying to do. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot to keep track of these days, I think.
Yeah.
Overall, sort of out of all the things you do, connected with music, in life, really, I suppose, what motivates you the most as an artist, do you think?
Um, Definitely just seeing a raw acoustic guitar song that I've just pulled together come into a masterpiece of music. Like, I've realized my passion, I love performing, definitely, but I've played thousands of gigs over the years, and sometimes that can be exhausting. Sometimes I wake up and go, I don't want to play this gig today, but I could easily wake up and sit down and write a song. I love writing. It's my thing. So yeah, to write something and then see it grow and turn into this beautiful sound or something, that's probably what motivates me to keep going.
Mhm. So you mentioned that you had written quite a few songs and chose the number you did for the album. Have you left those behind and you're now writing new songs and thinking ahead to the next project?
Yeah, I am. I'm writing all new stuff. There is a couple of old ones I might bring in. Like, I wrote a song for my mum, which I absolutely love. And one for my daughters as well that I'd love to produce. But at the moment, I've just written a Christmas song, and I have taken it into my dad's studio, and we're kind of pulling this song together. And if it sounds okay and we're happy with it, we'll release it at the end of November. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And then I've sort of got maybe 5 songs I've written that aren't fully polished yet, that I'm just going to go over and probably bring into the next year and release. I'm hoping to release 3 singles. I'm hitting the road in May for 3 months.
Okay.
So yeah, not playing gigs. Just I'm going to do a live stream campfire session and just travel the country and have a break from work and just write music. So if I can get a few singles recorded before I leave, I'll release them in the first half of the year.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds like a great idea, a live stream campfire session, so people can keep an eye on your socials for details about that. Are there any shows before that, though, at the Pig and Whistle or elsewhere that you're playing?
I've got my album launch actually on October the 4th, which I've sold 135 tickets to. So we've sold out that one. I've got a couple I might squeeze in, but that's sold out, and that's October. After that, I'm moving house next week. So
Yeah, that will.
if you saw my background, I've got no furniture behind me at the moment. But yeah, my husband and I have bought a little house in the country, and we're moving next week. So I've just got to play this gig in October and then focus on just the new house and setting that up, and then Christmas, and then we'll worry about the new year. But I have applied for a couple of festivals for the new year, so I'm just waiting to hear back, and I'll definitely obviously play a couple of headline shows myself that I'll put around, but at the moment there's nothing set in stone. So
Yeah. Well, it strikes me that you will likely have a full, rich, creative life, whatever you are doing. Hazel, it's been so interesting to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you. Thanks for having me.